How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Origa Discordia and HachiShaku? Part 2. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Onizuka City. At a motel, a wasted and drunk blonde-haired woman wearing a green coat was stumbling her way back to the motel after staying at a bar for a drink of sake. And who was this blonde-haired woman with honey brown eyes? Her name is Tsunade Senju. Princess of the Senju clan, great-granddaughter of the Shodaime Hokage and grandniece to the Nidaime Hokage. She is also a slug Sannin and the elemental nation's greatest medical kunoichi. Now why was the Senju woman here? And drunk of all things when she should be in Konoha? You see, after the Kyuubi attacked, Tsunade had left Konoha, letting her grief consume her for the losses of her loved ones. She lost her younger brother and her lover. Now she lost Kushina Uzumaki, who she saw as a daughter, then the loss of her godson. Leaving the village, taking her lover's niece and apprentice with her. Her apprentice is Shizune, who is Tsunade's companion, with a pampered pig at their side who went by the name Taunton. For years Tsunade had been traveling, going from bar to bar, then from casino to casino, escaping from debt collectors. Tsunade would go to the bars to drink sake and go drunk to keep her grief at bay. Finally reaching her destination, she opened the door using her key, having a feeling Shizune has been worried sick about her, as right when she got in she spoke. "I'm back, Shizune," said Tsunade, only to hear silence which made her raise a brow. She spoke, turning towards Shizune's room only to see a pair of red Sharingan eyes spin in her direction, which was the last thing that she saw before passing out. Standing over the passed out Senju, who stepped out the shadows, was Uchiha Itachi, who is flanked by 3 Batcons. 2 of each were carrying a passed out Shizune and Taunton, while Itachi motioned for one to grab Tsunade. Given his status and rank as a Yakai Thrall and Yakai General, Itachi was also given the modified tattoo of the Terakudo, which gives him access to summon his personal army of Shodoken. Itachi morphed into his crow form and flew out an open window with the 3 Batcons, phasing through the walls with their captive prey, and took into the sky following their Yakai General. Back in Yuzu. It was morning as Itachi and his Batcons returned with the retrieved Tsunade, Senju and Shizune, including Taunton, as they were in the throne room waiting for Origa-Shaku-Sama. The doors opened, revealing Origa-Shaku-Sama, Chloe, Naruto and Ripper, as Origa-Shaku-Sama looked towards Itachi and saw who he brought. "Excellent, you completed your task," she commented, seeing him nod as she snapped her fingers, summoning 2 sumo cons, as she motioned them to take Tsunade and Shizune along with the pig in her private chambers to talk privately with the Senju. "Itachi, stay here, we must have a small meeting," Origa-Shaku-Sama commanded, sitting on the throne with Naruto sitting on her lap and Chloe standing beside the throne as Itachi walked up and bowed on one knee. Ripper the Indoraptor just laid down like a obedient dog waiting for his alpha. "So what's the meeting about, my lady?" Itachi asked, looking into her eyes, then towards his student Naruto. "We are in need of some servants, some allies, more Yakai Thralls. We need more people to serve us within our future empire. We can't overuse the Shidokins doing the work of a servant, we need them for our strength and as our army," she spoke, stroking Naruto's hair, who smiled, feeling her big dark-skinned hand on his head. "So what are your suggestions?" he asked with a serious expression. "I am sending you to recruit those with potential to serve within our ranks," she said, looking directly at him. "I think I know where to start in gaining some recruits and a possible ally for the future of the Arc Kingdom," said Itachi, with Origa-Shaku-Sama, Naruto and Chloe waiting for him to explain. "Go on," she spoke, staring directly at him. "Why not try Wave Country? I've heard of some rumors that a tyrant businessman is terrorizing the country. Well, you sent me on my search for Tsunade-san," Itachi offered, with Origa-Shaku-Sama thinking it over as she was beginning to consider it. "Find some possible recruits and look into this tyrant businessman and find out what is his aim going on in that country, and once you do, Wave Country will be our first alliance and territory," she said, seeing the Uchiha nod. "It shall be done, my lady. I would like my student to accompany me," he said, with Naruto smiling. "Can Ripper come with us?" Naruto asked, with the black raptor of death perking his head up at the mention of his name. "Of course," Itachi replied with a smile. "If Naruto-kun is going, then so am I," said Chloe, with Origa-Shaku-Sama looking at her in slight surprise before having a curved smirk on her face. "Very well, I suggest we get ready and pack up for our first mission," he said, seeing Naruto beam with excitement as he got off Origa-Shaku-Sama's lap and ran into his room with Ripper following him. Chloe went to go pack up as well, as it was just Itachi and Origa-Shaku-Sama. "What about you? What will become of Tsunade-san?" he spoke, seeing her have a stoic expression. "I will deal with her when she wakes. I want you to focus on the mission I've given you, and one more thing before you prepare," she said, seeing him stand still. "Yes," he replied. "Don't let nothing happen to either Chloe or Naruto, they are both important to me, do you understand?" She spoke in an ice tone, with a Hanya mask manifesting above her head that was glaring into Itachi's soul that made the Uchiha sweat and feel a chill run down his spine. "Understood." He spoke seeing the mask vanish as she smiled. Good, now go, she spoke seeing him leave as she rose from her throne and walked down to her private chambers to talk with Tsunade. 30 minutes later. Itachi was already packed and ready to go as he waited for Chloe and Naruto. Chloe finally appeared wearing her grey tight bodysuit with her witch blade attached on her right wrist, carrying her bag as she also had a bow and a quiver full of arrows. She also had 2 Dedric daggers on her hips. She was ready for anything as she stood by Itachi, observing the Uchiha Yokai general while waiting for her husband. 5 minutes later. They wondered where was Naruto and what was taking him so long. Before they could question where was he, they heard Ripper roar as they both turned towards the direction of where they heard it. Ripper was running on all fours in glory wearing a saddle, as you could see Naruto wearing the armor of Shredder with a crimson cape with his Uzumaki clan blade Raijin Jaka, holding the helmet of Shredder, fusing it with the Predator Kitsune mask on his left shoulder, was a mounted plasma canister. His spiked gauntlets had the Predator's wrist blades on each of his wrists with a net launcher. Putting on his helmet with a smirk. He didn't have time to sign the Xenomorph summoning contract, he would sign it when he returns, for now he just needed Ripper. Itachi and Chloe could only look in shock and admiration at what Naruto was wearing. I'm ready, Naruto spoke in a deep voice through his helmet and mask. Let's go, Itachi said as they all got on the boat and began sailing off to Wave. Back in Yuzu. HachiShaku-Sama was currently heading down to her private chambers, where she had sent her sumo-kan to guard and secure Tsunade and Shizune. Everything was beginning to work out perfectly with what she's doing. In a month or 2 months her signs of pregnancy will show. Now that she has Tsunade, all she needed to do was to persuade the Senju woman to join aside her and Naruto, and she had a plan to get Tsunade to successfully side with her, seeing she is family towards her husband. Apparently the Senju clan and Uzumakis are like cousins, meaning Naruto has a relative that's alive. She could convince Tsunade that her godson is alive. After Itachi, Naruto and Chloe, Ripper included, be successful in their mission, Shaku-Sama plans on setting Naruto on the path to avenge his clan, then she will find out about the East Monk's whereabouts and kill the old bastard, then continue to plan and scheme in the shadows of what HachiShaku-Sama told her to set things in motion for the future of the elemental nations. She and Naruto both with a revived race of a new generation of dark elves, with Uzumaki Namika's blood running in their veins, plus full-fledged yokais to rule all in the elemental nations. For some reason Shaku-Sama thought deeply on this subject of her and Chloe, as the only 2 dark elves here in this world. She realized her and Chloe wouldn't be able to revive their race with just them alone unless she could return to her old world and look for any possible female dark elves suitable to help revive their race. Since she has the power to convert people into becoming a yokai, which HachiShaku-Sama gifted her this ability. She wondered, was it possible to convert any human female into a full-blooded dark elf? She would have to check her books and find a ritual on how to turn the human females into dark elves, that way her husband Naruto can impregnate more. It also brought her to her attention since Itachi mentioned the clans in Konoha and their clan heiresses with possible bloodlines. She could give an extra gift to her new generation. Itachi is her first yokai thrall and first yokai general. He is truly the last true Uchiha member, and she wanted a new generation of Uchihas to work alongside of the new generation of dark elves. Once she gets Itachi settled by his birthright, he is officially Uchiha clan head. She's doing this to repay him for his undying loyalty to her and Naruto both. Now that she finally reached her chambers, she saw the 2 sumo-cons stand in attention at the side of her, while Tsunade and Shizune were still asleep. Leave me, she commanded to her sumo-cons, who vanished in the shadows awaiting for their queen's command. Standing in front of the 2 women in pig, she was going to use her spell to wake up the women so she could talk to them. Tsunade and Shizune cracked open their eyes, feeling a bit dizzy and lightheaded as their vision was a bit blurry but was returning to normal as they looked around, noticing they were not in their motel in Tenezuka City. Where are we, Tsunade-sama? Asked Shizune with her mentor looking around, still not sure. I don't know where we are. The last thing I saw was the Sharingan and was caught in a Genjutsu. What the hell? She yelled, noticing she was bounded by chakra suppressant chains that chained her to the floor. Her arms and legs were chained, same with Shizune. Where the hell are we? We can't be thrown in prison, Tsunade exclaimed as she tried to use her monster strength she was known for to break free from the chains, only to find no luck. I believe I can answer that, said Shaku-Sama, with Tsunade turning her full attention on her, seeing the 8-foot dark elf queen in the shadows. And who are you supposed to be? Said Tsunade, questioned, with Shizune looking in her direction. I am Shaku-Sama, former Dark Elf Queen of Eostia, and is a fusing with the Japan urban legend HachiShaku-Sama, said Shaku-Sama, looking at the 2 as both women widened their eyes in shock at the mention of HachiShaku-Sama. Tsunade could only look pale white like her former teammate Orochimaru when Shaku-Sama had said she was a fusion of Japan's most feared urban legend HachiShaku-Sama. Her great-grandma Mito Uzumaki had told her stories of HachiShaku-Sama and what the 8-foot-tall woman did in her nature as she began to shudder looking at the dark elf fusion, and she could have swore she saw HachiShaku-Sama's visage staring into her soul. "What do you want with us, Origa-Shaku-Sama?" stammered Shizune, who was also sweating in fear. Her uncle Dan had told her stories about HachiShaku-Sama as well. "Are you going to kill us?" asked Tsunade looking at the dark elf fusion with a lump in her throat. "No, of course not, why would I kill my husband's relative when he needs to see you?" Origa-Shaku-Sama replied, seeing the confused looks on both their faces. "What are you talking about? What relative do you mean? I'm the last of my clan and the Uzumakis are no more. The last one died in a village I hate to remember," said Tsunade looking into the fusion's eyes. "You are indeed wrong, you do have family that is left alive, right now he is on a mission with his sensei," Origa-Shaku-Sama said, with Tsunade and Shizune having exchanged glances, then turned their attention back on her. "I don't know what you're talking about. Who is this relative of mine?" questioned Tsunade as all the color drained from her face when she saw Origa-Shaku-Sama hold up a picture of her, Chloe and Naruto at an amusement park. Tsunade stared hard at the picture as her eyes widened. "No, it can't be possible. That can't be my godson. He's supposed to be dead," Tsunade exclaimed with shock. "That is your godson, I'm the one that's raising him, me and my dear friend Chloe. I found him when he was a baby left by his dead parents," Origa-Shaku-Sama said as she began explaining everything to Tsunade. "So that's my godson Naruto-kun, he looks just like Kushina with those eyes and has Minato's blonde hair," she said softly with some tears flowing in her eyes, happy and relieved that her godson wasn't dead after all these years. "When will I see him?" Tsunade asked. "You will see him when he returns from his mission with his sensei and other wife," Origa-Shaku-Sama said, with both Tsunade and Shizune having expressions of that of a gaping fish at what she said. "Wait a minute. Since when has my godson been married?" yelled Tsunade in complete shock. "He was married yesterday on his birthday. I am also his wife, since me and my friend Chloe are helping him restore the Uzumaki clan. Right now me and Chloe are carrying his new generation as we speak," Origa-Shaku-Sama said again, with both Shizune and Tsunade looking at her in shock. "No. Don't tell me you had sex with an underage 12-year-old boy. On his birthday. What gives you the right to do that? How dare you defile my godson and take his virginity? At such a young age," growled Tsunade, wishing she was out of these chains, and beat the brakes off Origa-Shaku-Sama. "You will see why I did it and you will come to understand why. But for now let's talk business," the dark elf fusion said, seeing Tsunade fuming at her, while Shizune had a flabbergasted look. "What are you getting at?" Tsunade said, still glaring at the dark elf fusion, upset that she had the nerve to take her godson's virginity when he should have been at a proper mature age. "You know Naruto-kun is heir to the Uzumaki throne, right?" Origa-Shaku-Sama questioned as Shizune and Tsunade minds blew. Did they hear her right? "Damn, I forgot Kushina-chan was Yuzu's princess before she was sent to Konoha and after the destruction of her clan, so that really makes Naruto a prince," Tsunade said, putting two and two together, with Origa-Shaku-Sama nodding. "He's a king since you're a former queen," Tsunade said softly as she began to put the pieces together. "That's right, I'm his queen and he is my king, and you Tsunade, we require your services to our new future kingdom," Origa-Shaku-Sama spoke, with Tsunade raising a brow as Shizune looked between the two talking. "What's the catch?" Tsunade frowned. "Join us and cut ties with Konoha. Naruto-kun would love to have his godmother in his kingdom running a new medical program since the council in Konoha declined your medical program," Origa-Shaku-Sama said, with Tsunade looking shocked. "How do you know I tried to form a medical program in Konoha? And what makes you think I'll join you? I'd rather take Naruto-kun with me and Shizune," she said defiantly, making the fused dark elf Yakai chuckle. "I have obtained Kushina's memories and heard of you trying to form that program since Konoha denied it, and there's no way that I'd let you and your student walk out of Yuzu with Naruto-kun, because I'd have to kill the both of you if you make that attempt, and as for having you join us, I think your mind will be changed after I do this." Origa-Shaku-Sama directing her right palm at Tsunade as a light purple glow emitted as she released it upon Tsunade. "Tsunade-sama!" screamed Shizune in fear for her sensei as her pig taunton squealed for her mistress. The purple light hit Tsunade dead on as her body and form had changed. Even her genjutsu to hide her real appearance had shattered as she was transformed. Shizune's eyes were wide as saucers at her mentor's transformation. "What did you do to me?" Tsunade questioned in shock. She feels so much younger and stronger, she no longer has her genjutsu on her as she looked up at the dark elf fusion, who smiled. "Let's just say I have given you a gift and has restored you to your natural prime and strength," replied Origa-Shaku-Sama as she brought in a flower pot with dirt, putting it near the shell-shocked Senju, who looked at her restored body. "No way. She restored my age. I feel like I'm in my younger 20s. And that's not all she's done. She's increased my chakra reserves to a higher extent. thought Tsunade as she glanced at the flower pot and touched the dirt while channeling chakra into the dirt as she could see a small bonsai tree grow out the dirt with it blooming sakura flowers. Wood style. I have wood style. I have my great-grandfather's bloodline. She looked shocked once again looking up at HachiShaku-Sama in a new light. Shizune could only look in complete awe and admiration, her sensei now had wood style just like her great-grandfather. I am eternally grateful for this. I can't thank you enough. You have convinced me. Tsunade said very happily. You are very much welcome, I trust you two are hungry. Let's go, we have more to discuss, HachiShaku-Sama said as she summoned her Shodokan shinobi to unchain her guests as she led them to the Yuzu kitchen. Wave Country one day later. Naruto, Ripper, Chloe and Itachi has docked off their boat and was now in Wave Country as they looked around in awe as Itachi had told them what their objective was and that was to recruit possible followers to join them and possible servants. Right now their base of operations was an abandoned motel setting up camp as they circles together with Ripper looking at them but kept his attention on his alpha Naruto since he is very obedient to Naruto. It seems as if the people of Wave are unhappy just like you stated, Itachi-sensei spoke Naruto through his mask with Chloe besides him. Yes, they fear this tyrant named Gato. It is our job to find out what is his aim here while we are looking for possible recruits. I will scout around and see if I can find any of Gato's whereabouts, Itachi said seeing the two nod. And what about us? Asked Chloe staring at the Uchiha with a slight frown. I suppose you two could go around the village to find extra information as well, because it seems Gato has thugs here in this village, find every thug that works for Gato, interrogate them first, then kill them, Itachi replied seeing the two nod as he grabbed his Tengu mask, putting it on, then turned into his crow form and flew out a broken window, leaving Chloe and Naruto alone with Ripper. Well, you heard sensei, Chloe-chan, let's go find some thugs, maybe that way the villagers could see us as heroes if we are to help them and make them our ally, Naruto said through his mask as she blushed before nodding and followed him to the door. Ripper was going with them as well, but he went invisible using his camouflage, making him impossible to see. But Itachi. Flying in his crow form with his Sharingan gleaming to life, he eyed the entire village with his eyes. As he flew into the forest it was then his eyes caught something. He saw a masked figure wearing a Kiri hunter mask carrying a body and a very large sword as he followed the pair. The masked hunter Nin from Kiri, who is carrying a body, wasn't aware she was being followed by a crow in the sky with Sharingan eyes. As they made it to their destination, it looked to be an abandoned warehouse as Itachi flew near a cracked window and leaned in watching on what was going on. Itachi eyed the figure who was injured. It turns out that it's the member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, Zabuza Mamichi, and that this masked hunter Nin is his accomplice. He eyed the two seeing the hunter Nin tend to Zabuza's wounds. He wondered was it possible to recruit these two and would his mistress approve of them? So you failed on killing the bridge builder? Said a short businessman holding a cane and wearing glasses. He was being flanked by Wave Daimyo samurai who now work for him. The man wasn't alone, he had help. He has Konoha shinobi as escorts, Kakashi Haddock of the Sharingan, and 3 of his genin brats, answered Zabuza, who groaned in annoyance at the businessman. And to think I was paying you, you can't even do the job right. Yelled the businessman only to squirm when Zabuza got up raising his sword near the short businessman's neck. You better pay us, as promised. Once I am recovered I will kill the bridge builder Tizuna, along with his Konoha escorts, understand Gato? Said Zabuza in a dangerous voice as the Wave Samurai were about to intervene only for the masked hunter Nin to get in their way, putting their swords towards their necks. Step away from Zabuza-sama, the masked hunter Nin said in an angelic feminine voice. Enough, Haku. Start tending to my wounds, rest assured in the next few days I'll kill your bridge builder. Now fuck off, Gato, said Zabuza as the man huffed and scowled, turning away with his samurai escorts following him. Itachi in his crow form had heard the whole conversation as he flew off, now following Gato. With Naruto, Chloe and Ripper. Naruto, who was flanked by Chloe, who drawn out her ebony bow and ebony arrow, with Ripper, who is still camouflaged, staying behind them, walking down the streets of Wave Village, seeing the poor and unhappy villagers hoping for a new light to come and save them from Gato. Chloe spotted something as she scowled. What's wrong, Chloe-chan? He asked through his predator fox mask as she pointed at what she was seeing as he scowled as well. He saw a gang of men circle around a middle-aged woman. It looked like they were going to rape her. Let go of me. Stop. Said a brunette female villager as she was held against her will against 3 thugs. Hold still, bitch. And let us have a go at you. I'm sure our boss won't mind us being late. Said a thug over his 30 seconds as he ripped her shirt, revealing her bra. The woman could only shed tears before he could pull down her dress. His head had been blown off by a blue blast of chakra, shocking her and the other 2 thugs. She turned to the direction where it came from and saw Naruto with his plasma canister smoking as he let out an inhuman growl at the thugs as they pissed their pants. One of them were about to run, only to have his stomach cut open wide, with his intestines falling out as Ripper uncamouflaged himself as the thug could only look in horror as Ripper bit his head off, successful killing him. The last thug backed into a wall, truly terrified as Chloe aimed her bow and arrow at him, daring him to make a move. "Take him," growled Naruto as his shinobi Shodokan appeared and grabbed the terrified thug, dragging him in the shadows never to be seen so they could interrogate him. "Let's go and interrogate him, then wait for Itachi-sensei," Naruto said with Chloe nodding and Ripper understanding his alpha. He wanted more blood and prey on the fears of these thugs for his alpha. Before Naruto could turn away, he heard the brunette woman call to him. "Wait. Who are you, stranger? I am eternally grateful for you saving me," she asked, wanting to know who was this masked young hero who saved her. "I am Uzumaki Shredder, that is all you need to know," Naruto answered behind his mask as he used his cloaking device to disappear and follow Chloe and Ripper, heading back to their base of operations, leaving the stunned woman behind who knew her savoir-vaire's name, Uzumaki Shredder. Naruto did an inhuman growl through his fox predator mask as the feared thug was pissing himself in fear as he was tied to a chair being surrounded by Naruto, Chloe and Ripper, who couldn't wait to sink his jaws of death on the thug. Please don't hurt me. I was only," the thug stammered, but flinched when Naruto came up to him pointing his wrist blades at the thug's throat, who held a lump in his throat, sweating in fear. "Shut up. You will listen to us carefully, you will tell us where every thug that works under Geto is, you will reveal their possible locations and hideouts to us," said Naruto through his mask, scowling at the thug who looked much more frightened. The thug gulped, looking at Naruto as he shivered, looking at Ripper who could only smile, enjoying the thug's fear, and he loved how his alpha was intimidating his prey. Chloe flipped her Dedrick dagger, waiting to torture the thug as well. He could feel a lump in his throat. "Oh, okay. I'll tell you. Just please don't kill me." The thug stammered, fearfully afraid of what was going to happen as he began spilling out everything he knew. "With Itachi. Currently at Gato's home base that looked to be heavily guarded with thugs, and from the looks of it, he also has samurai working for him. Does this mean Wave's daimyo was killed by Gato? And his samurai now work for him? Guess he needed to investigate in on." In the trees in his crow form, he noticed a few carriages coming and gazed into them with his Sharingan. He could see that the carriages were holding cages. As he narrowed his eyes at what he was seeing, it seems that Gato has slaves. He flew down as he noticed a few thugs and samurai were having a slight conversation, so he decided to eavesdrop. "What's with the cages and people?" said a thug with the rank of lieutenant as a veteran samurai answered. "Gato-sama is hosting a slave auction at midnight. It seems we will be having some fun with some ladies," said the samurai with a dark grin. "Yeah, he did say he would reward us for helping him overthrow our daimyo. It's our job to guard the slaves," said another samurai with a smug smile. Itachi within his crow form could only look enraged and disgusted at what he was hearing. Flying away, he decided it was time to contact his mistress to report to her, then return to Naruto, Chloe and Ripper. Flying in the forest, he reverted from his crow form and bowed near a pond, looking into it as he poured a little of his Yakai chakra into the pond to contact her. The pond materialized, showing Origa Shaku-Sama's visage. "Report Itachi," she spoke, looking down at her general. "Origa Shaku-Sama, it seems this Gato wishes to take Wave for himself, and he has hired a missing nin Zabuza Mamichi to go after Wave's bridge builder, who are under the protection of Konoha shinobi," reported Itachi, waiting for his mistress' response and reaction. She frowned, looking down at the Uchiha as she started thinking what to say. One thing for sure, she wasn't going to let that slob Gato try to take Wave. She paused, waiting for him to continue. "Wave's daimyo has been killed as well, and Gato is having a slave auction at midnight. What are your commands?" he asked, looking at his mistress. "Raid the slave auction, free any slaves you can and hide them," she spoke with calmness in her voice. "And Gato?" Itachi replied, seeing her scowl. Kill him and all of his thugs," she spoke with coldness. "And Zabuza Mamachi and his accomplice? What to do with them? Along with the Konoha shinobi?" Itachi asked as he began explaining to her about Zabuza Mamachi and that he was a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist and could be a great yokai general within her ranks. She seemed to consider this and nodded. "Persuade him and his accomplice to join us, and as for the Konoha shinobi, spare them, but if they get in the way, kill them," she said, staring at him. Itachi stiffened at her command. His little brother is on the Konoha team and he couldn't bring himself to kill his only living younger brother. "Very well, I'll report back to Naruto," he said as her visage disappeared in the pond as he flew off, turning into his crow form. Meanwhile in Iascha, Celestine was in her holy hall praying. She and Kagaya had told the rest of the princess knights of the prophecy and fate of Iascha. Half of them didn't want to believe that Origa Discordia could actually fake her death and forsaken her own kingdom. It's been 12 years since Origa's supposed fake death, now the tyrant Volt and his black dog mercenaries has taken up residence in Origa's dark fortress and the northern part of Iastia, as their numbers and armies grew with having remnants of Origa's monsters that used to serve under her. Many monsters had sided with Volt, which consisted of orcs, goblins, imps, trolls, orges and many other disturbing monsters that were once under the control of Origa. They were now at war against the man she, secretly, hired to take down Origa. The High Elf goddess had contacted other allies to help her put a stop to Volt and his growing army. She was to be having an audience with the anti-demon Kunoichi's Asagi, Sakura and Murasaki. Celestine was worried and wished she could return to the realm of the Almighty to speak with the gods about Iastia's fate and that Origa Discordia is the cause of the prophecy. Another thing, what did Kaguya mean by Origa Discordia has changed into something very evil, and it has something to do with the 8-foot visage of a woman that shrouds around Origa. She needed to do something. She wasn't sure when the prophecy was going to occur, but for some reason she had a feeling it was coming. It was coming very soon since 12 years has already happened and still nothing has changed. At Volt's dark fortress. Sitting on Origa's old throne since he is now proclaimed as king of this fortress, the leader of the Black Dogs now had big plans. Soon he, his men and the many monsters that were once under Origa Discordia has sided with him since he promised them more women to have sex with. He was still disappointed and angry that he still could not find Origa Discordia or her faithful servant Chloe. It's been 12 years and still no sign of them. He was sure they would turn up, he just needed to wait. Right now he could focus on Celestine and the Princess Knights. Frowning and sighing, one of his men came forward to him. Volt-sama, you have a visitor, his name is Kuryu, spoke the Black Dog member. Let him in, Volt answered with a scowl. He wondered what did that pompous ass of a scientist want now. A moment later there was a man wearing glasses and wearing a white lab coat, showing he was indeed a scientist as he stared at Volt on the throne with a frown on his face. Comfortable in that throne? Kuryu said sarcastically at Volt. What do you want? Volt demanded, glaring at the scientist. Oh, I've came to remind you of your mission. Was it not that you were supposed to invade Iastia and all of its women? Questioned Kuryu with Volt scoffing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to start the invasion soon this week. I'm going after each Princess Knight one at a time and save Celestine for last, spoke Volt, with Kuryu pushing up his glasses. Any luck finding Origa Discordia? Kuryu asked, glaring at the man who glared back. No, but I have my spies out there looking for her and to keep watch if she does turn up, Volt answered. I see, Kuryu said with irritation. He was livid that Origa Discordia and her servant Chloe had escaped and slipped away from Volt. At least Kyle will promise them dark elves since you failed, said Kuryu, causing Volt to growl. Piss off, I will find them. I'm not letting some punk outclass me, spoke Volt angrily. Mind your attitude, Volt, you know it's not wise to talk to your leader like that, countered Kuryu, causing the mercenary to grumble. I will take my leave then. I expect you to conquer Iastia this week, or at least a month. Do not disappoint me, Kuryu said, walking away, leaving the throne room. Asshole, the nerve of him. I'll show him, thought Volt. Hicks. Kin. He called out his right-hand men who came before him. Yes, Volt-sama? They both asked. Hicks, assemble the men. I have an announcement for them. We will make our move on the neighboring kingdoms south of Iastia. Kin, inform our spies within the ranks of the Princess Knights that to be prepared. He commanded, with them nodding and walking off to do as he told. Back with Naruto. Now that they interrogated the thug, Chloe slit his throat with her Dedrick dagger, letting him fall as Naruto motioned for Ripper to the dead thug. What are we to do now, Naruto-kun, since he's given us all of the locations of where all of Gato's lackeys are? Chloe asked, staring at her husband. We wait for Itachi-sensei to return first, then we go out at nightfall killing them. If we manage to kill every gang and thugs around the village of Wave, that should lower half of Gato's so-called army of thugs, replied Naruto, who is playing with his smart disc while sheathing his spear on his back as he inspected his right wrist blade as he made the blade retract in its sheath. Looking over to Chloe, behind his Shredder helmet fox predator mask, he smiled at how beautiful she is, blonde hair, red ruby eyes, delicate dark skin, along with her womanly curves and developed E-cups. Pulling the tubes from his mask and put both hands on his mask, removing it from his face to show his handsome face to her, while removing his Shredder helmet showing off his blonde hair. Chloe could only blush at him as she looked away shyly. She could never forget how handsome he is. But when he wears that mask and helmet to her, it makes him more intimidating, powerful, strong and commanding. She could tell he was a natural-born king, ready to conquer all who would oppose him. He walked towards her and put his arms around her waist, holding her as she blushed, looking at his ocean blue eyes, while his meta ruby red ones, caressing her face, made her feel safe and relaxing around him as they looked softly at each other, leaning against each other, planting a kiss on their lips. Breaking the kiss, Chloe smiled, looking at Naruto, who also smiled back, looking at her with affection. Am I interrupting? said an amused voice, causing them both to snap their heads towards the direction of the voice, and they happened to see Uchiha Itachi standing there. Sensei. How long were you standing there? Said a shocked Naruto, with Chloe frowning at the man who ruined the moment. Never let your guard down, I have been standing here for at least 30 seconds watching my student kiss his wife, spoke Itachi, with Naruto looking embarrassed. I've returned with some information. I see that one of you interrogated one of Gato's thugs, yes? Asked Itachi, seeing Ripper the Indoraptor eating the dead thug, with both Chloe and Naruto nodding. Yes, Gato has thugs everywhere around the village in groups. Most of them are lieutenants who leads the group, making sure they instill fear into the villagers, spoke Naruto, with Chloe nodding. Good, this could prove well to our advantage. I hear Gato is hosting a slave auction at midnight. It's at a warehouse heavily guarded by lots of his thugs and samurai. HachiShaku-Sama has instructed we rescue the slaves and bring them to our ship that on the docks. After that we kill Gato and recruit Zabuza Mamichi and his masked accomplice to join us. Side note is that we have Konoha Shinobi here watching over the bridge builder, Tazuna stated Itachi, with Naruto frowning. Will Konoha Shinobi suspect that we're here stealing their mission? Naruto asked, looking at his sensei. I believe they will, 3 genins under Kakashi Haddock. It won't take them long to figure us out, Itachi spoke, frowning lightly. At nightfall we begin purging out all of Gato's thugs within the village, then we go to the slave auction, spoke Itachi, with Chloe and Naruto nodding. Wave Village nightfall. Currently in the bushes were Naruto, Chloe, Itachi and Ripper staring at the poor village. Behind them were a handful of Shidokins, the Ninjakin, Samuraikin, Razorkin. With a single hand motion from Itachi, Ripper growled softly. He was getting real excited for the urge to kill for his alpha. Naruto turned on his cloak device and vanished. Chloe drawn out her bow and ebony arrows. The Shidokins faded in darkness. Itachi turned into his crow form and flew to the location of Gato's slave auction. In a bar. The place was filled with Gato's thugs who had taken over the place, getting drunk and whatnot. At the doorknob was turning as the door was slowly pushed, showing a clawed hand. One drunk thug noticed this, and his eyes widened at what he was seeing. Ripper had opened the door and lunged at the drunk thug, mauling him as he screamed, alerting other thugs that were there. Many were going after Ripper with their knives, swords and other weapons, but out of nowhere tentacles wrapped around their throats, strangling them. The source was the Squidkin. Ripper lunged and clawed just about every thug he could get close to, as he pounced on one thug that screamed at the sight of him and bit into him. The Sumokan appeared and bashed the skulls and broke in some bodies. Blood was everywhere, thugs screaming in horror and fear as Ripper was just standing tall on a table, roaring as the Squidkin, Sumokan and Ripper himself continued the massacre. Elsewhere at some alleyways, samurai cons and ninjakins attacked some thugs as well, with Chloe shooting her bow and arrows, killing all thugs in sight. Her witch blade on her right wrist pulsed with power as the red gemstone on it glowed in delight. Before she could draw another arrow, she glanced her eyes towards her witch blade as if it was telling her to awaken its power. She yelped when her right wrist suddenly transformed into a gauntlet as her red ruby eyes had changed into a golden color with 2 tattoo streaks of gray running down her cheeks. Her hair, natural blonde hair, was strawberry blonde as she screamed in pleasure, transforming her body with armor that was colored dark steel and chrome, as some of it revealed her chest area and ass. Her dark skin remained. She breathed for a bit, looking at the remaining thugs with lust for their deaths as she extended a long blade from her right wrist. Time to slaughter you pigs, said Chloe in a now different voice that was alluring with coldness. She charged at them, going to kill them. Slashing them with her long blade, she enjoyed their screams as she licked her lips seductively. She whipped out 6 red tendrils, ripping, strangling and impaling the thugs. She giggled seductively, seeing all the bloodlust she caused here as she walked off to find her Naruto-kun. Naruto, who was in cloaked mode, is in hunting mode after some thugs as he managed to kill some without being seen as he stopped at what caught his attention. It was a little boy who was held back by 4 thugs while another group of thugs were stripping the boy's mother of her clothing. No. Leave my mother alone. Cried the young boy, struggling, trying to get to his mother. Shut up, you little shit. Watch as we give your mother a bastard sibling for you to see, said a samurai as the little boy could only look in tears at what they were going to do to his mother, and they were going to force him to see her getting raped. Everything is going to be okay, Inari, just stay strong. Like your father would want us to be, said his mother, whose name is Tsunami, as she was half naked, holding back some tears, hoping someone would come and save her and her son. Why didn't any of those shinobi from Konoha bother to escort her? Before the thugs could force her panties off, none of them failed to notice 3 red dots aiming at one thug's midsection as a blue blast of chakra hit him, killing him, much to the shock of the other thugs, along with Tsunami and Inari. Naruto deactivated his cloaking device, allowing himself to be seen as he extended his right double-bladed wrist claw, letting out a terrifying growl at the terror-stricken thugs and samurai. In a quick blur, he lunged at them as he slaughtered them with his wrist blade. They screamed as blood splattered. Hose plasma canister fired in point-blank range, blowing a hole in the samurai's gut. While this was going on, Inari clung to Tsunami in fear, buried his face in her chest, unable to watch as she herself could only watch in fear at what was happening. She was sweating watching this masked stranger kill all of Gedo's ruthless thugs and samurai. The last thug tried to attack Naruto from behind as Tsunami screamed. "Look out!" she yelled, seeing him turn around and impale the last thug with his spear. Turning towards the two, he spoke. "Are you alright?" he asked behind his mask using his deep voice. As the two nodded, he threw his smart disc at a laundry line as a navy blue gown fell down that was caught in Naruto's hands as he threw it to Tsunami. "Put that on to cover yourself," he spoke, seeing her nod, doing what he says as Inari had the courage to look up at his savior. "Who are you? You saved me and my mother. Are you a hero going to save us from Gedo?" the young boy asked with hope, looking at Naruto. "I am Uzumaki Shredder, and yes, dear boy, I am here to make Gedo suffer for his crimes. Make no mistake, this village will be free," answered Naruto, as before they could ask him again he cloaked and walked away, leaving them alone. "Let's go home and tell your grandpa," said Tsunami, who couldn't believe that there was now finally hope for their country, and it was in the fate of Uzumaki Shredder. But Itachi was currently at the warehouse where the slave auction was being hosted at as he placed a genjutsu on himself to disguise as a wealthy man. All he needed to do was to go in and see what kind of slaves Gedo was holding. He made a spare clone to give Naruto and Chloe the signal to his location and to meet him there to confront Gedo once and for all. Slave auction. There sat Itachi Uchiha in his disguise, sitting with every wealthy buyer willing to buy slaves. As he looked around to see where was Gedo, he could see the place also had samurai thugs around as guards. As he looked around, narrowing his eyes, as he heard whispering and slow talking in all of the crowds. "May I have your attention, please?" said a voice as everyone turned and saw average tall man on the stand. He was wearing a suit holding a cane. "I know many of you expected Mr. Gedo to come and host the slave auction, but there has been a slight change in plans. He has left me in charge of the auction. He has other important matters right now. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mr. Flick. I am Gedo-sama's assistant," introduced Flick with Itachi in the crowd frowning. "It seems there has been a setback. Gedo's not here. I'll send my clones to inform Naruto-san and Chloe-san," thought Itachi, glaring at the man on the stage. "Now that I have introduced myself to you all, let's see who wants some slaves," Mr. Flick said. With all of the buyers except Itachi cheered and waited. "Bring me the first slave, please," the host said, with two samurai thugs bringing in the first slave from her cage. "Let me go. I don't belong to anyone," shouted a girl with mint green hair and orange eyes. She was dark-skinned with her clothes in tatters. She has a choker around her neck and chakra cuffs. "May I present you this lovely girl who is from a minor village called Taki. She goes by Fu, and she is also a Jinchuriki," Mr. Flick announced, with everyone looking at her in awe, while many men leered at her with hungry looks. Itachi widened his eyes at this. Taki sold their own Jinchuriki. For what? As he continued to watch. "Anybody want this Jinchuriki? She hosts the Nanabi-tailed beast within her. Anyone wants to buy her?" he asked, looking at the many buyers. "I'll buy her for 50 million Ryo," said a monotonous voice as all eyes turned to Itachi, who gave them a stoic expression that would have made his father proud. "And you are?" asked Mr. Flick, looking at Itachi. "Fugaku-chan is my name," said Itachi, using his father's name while at the same time holding a large bag of money. Since before he left Konoha, he had drained half of the Uchiha funds from the Konoha bank before he massacred them. "Well, very well, she's all yours, Mr. Chang," he said, with Fu staring at Fugaku with a glare as she could sense Chimay within her mindscape tense slightly. "What's wrong, Chimay?" she asked within her mindscape. "There is something off with that man. I sense Yakai chakra within him. Be careful, Larv, he's not normal," warned Chimay the Seven-Tails beetle. Fu had frowned as she stared at Fugaku, wondering what did Biju mean. "Now next up is another Jinchuriki. And she's from Kumo. She bears the Nibi within her," announced Flick as the next thugs brought in a blonde-haired woman with black eyes and her shinobi attire in tatters, with a choker around her neck and chakra restraints on her arms. "Her name is Yujido Nai. She ran away from Kumo from what we heard, and we managed to bag her. Any buyer wants her?" Flick asked as one buyer was about to respond until Itachi cut in. 60 million Ryo on Yujido Nai, spoke Fugaku-chan, as all eyes turned to him as the buyers could only glare at him. "Didn't I sense Yakai chakra within that man? Something's not right," warned Matabi. Yujido glanced at Fugaku with slight disdain, watched him closely. "Hey. I came here to buy slaves. And you're just taking them all," yelled a man who looked to be in his 30s, walking up to Fugaku, going to slug him only for the man to trip when Fugaku sidestepped. "I don't even have that many slaves, I only have 2. I think this auction is over," Fugaku said, saying Kai as his disguise revealed him as Itachi Uchiha, as every buyer had paled at the famed Uchiha slayer. "I knew there was something off with him. He's a yakai. And has the scent of the Uchiha blood," Nibi had said, with Yujido looking shocked. Though she wasn't the only one, Fu was in complete shock as well. Mr. Flick pressed the alarm button alerting all guards. Itachi snapped his fingers summoning ninjakins, samurai-kins, Rizorkins as they attacked and killed all thugs as Itachi teleported near Flick who looked shocked as Itachi pulled out a kunai and pinned the man against the wall with a kunai to the throat. Please don't kill me. Flick pleaded with Itachi scowling as his Sharingan gleamed. Where is Gato? And you will tell me or else, Itachi said coldly pressing the kunai against the man's throat who is shaking in fear. I don't know. I swear. He told me to take over for him at the slave auction. He said he had some important matters to handle. Shouted Flick who was sweating heavily. Before Itachi could respond he turned around when the doors were kicked open by Uzumaki Shredder, with Ripper flanking by him. The wall got cut in a circle as Chloe entered in her witchblade form as she breathed as she eyed her husband with lust. Itachi and Uzumaki Shredder looked baffled at Chloe's transformation. Giggling seductively she stared at her husband battering her eyelashes innocently. Like what you see. She teased trying to look innocent. Behind his mask Naruto blushed a shade of red looking at her. Now is not the time to act like this Chloe-chan, we have a mission to complete, said Uzumaki Shredder as Chloe in turn pouted looking away with a huff. So what do we have here sensei? Shredder asked looking at his sensei pinning down Flick. There's been a setback, Gato isn't here, however his assistant took his place, Itachi responded. Me and Ripper killed all the other thugs and guards that were securing the areas around the auction, Shredder said, turning towards all of the buyers who were surrounded by Sumikins. What are we to do with them? Asked Chloe in seriousness glaring at the buyers with hatred. It's simple, Ripper sick em. Shredder commanded as Ripper flashed that vicious smile again and lunged at the remaining buyers who screamed as they were being mauled by the Indoraptor. Mr. Flick could only flinch in horror, seeing the brutally the Indoraptor was doing towards his buyers who pleaded for mercy and screamed as flesh was ripped and blood splattered. Now where were we Mr. Flick? Ah yes, you're going to cooperate with us and you're going to help us free any slaves that scum Gato has, failure to comply and you die Itachi said with Flick nodding. Show us where are the other slaves Itachi demanded as Flick could only flinch seeing Itachi let him go as the timid man guided them where the slaves were being held at. Ripper stayed behind just so he could keep watching case any more guards had came and he would wait and kill them. Vegito and Fu flinched looking at Ripper who eyed them as they stood still and stayed quiet. Slave storage room. Flick indeed showed Shredder, Itachi and Chloe the slave storage room as the place had lots of people and creatures as Flick turned to them. Well here you are, this is where all of slaves are being kept he said showing them that the slaves were in cages. Good, you've proved your usefulness, Itachi said after shoving a kunai through Flick's throat, killing the man who choked on his own blood. The slaves who saw this looked on in shock at what they've seen as they looked in hope at these three. He's no longer needed, let's release the slaves, Naruto Itachi said as both him and Naruto did their shadow clone jutsu, summoning a copy of 110 clones, and grabbed all of the keys. Listen up all of you slaves, we mean you no harm, we've come to rescue you, and we will be taking you with us to your new destined home for freedom, said Shredder as all the slaves looked at him in a new light, holding a key as he went to the first cage and unlocked it, freeing a tall tanned raven-haired woman with blue eyes. Thanks Shredder-san said the woman who looked at him with admiration and affection. You're welcome and who might you be? He asked breaking the cuffs off her hands. Naiko Robin answered the dark-haired beauty as she felt relieved and felt her power come back to her. Well Robin-san go over to Chloe and stand by her as we free other slaves, said Shredder as she nodded doing what she was told. For an hour and a half every slave had been freed from their cages, while the animals and endangered species were still in their cages as the Sumikins were carrying every cage that contained some animals. The slaves had some time gathering some of their things and items as they now followed their saviors. Let's take them to the ship and explain things there to them, Itachi said with Chloe and Shredder nodding. Gato's boat. What did you say? Demanded Gato who looked extremely pissed off staring at one of his lieutenant thugs. The slave auction had been raided and everyone had been killed even the buyers replied the lieutenant. The short businessman could only sank in his chair with a look of utter disbelief on his face, all his slaves were stolen and freed. Then all of his thugs and goons were killed there too, including his assistant and his buyers just what the hell happened? Another thug had barged in. Gato-sama. Every thug and samurai have been killed in all of our territories in Wave Village. They've been slaughtered. Cried another thug. Gato even looked more shocked at this nearly half of his own men had been killed. Who is responsible for this? Could it be those Konoha shinobis Abusa warned me about? Demanded Gato he is truly upset. It wasn't them sir, the attacker who is responsible for this is named Uzumaki Shredder replied one thug. Shredder? He's the troublemaker. Just what is he playing at? That does it. I'll take Wave Country. Once Abusa kills those Konoha shinobi I'll get him to kill this Uzumaki Shredder as well. No one raids my slave auction and kills all of my thugs and gets away with it. Gato yelled. The red-haired galleon. Now on their ship that once belonged to red-haired Shanks Uzumaki, the gathered slaves were all on the ship as the Sumikins were putting the cages in the cargo hold. What are we going to do with them? We can't keep them on the ship this long, asked Chloe, who reverted from her witchblade form. You're right, we should take them to Yuzu, Itachi said. I've got a better idea, me, Chloe and Ripper will stay here in Wave while you drop off the slaves to Yuzu. Naruto stated as Itachi frowned looking at his student. Are you sure? He asked seeing his student nod. Don't worry, me and Chloe will be fine, plus Ripper will be here with us, Naruto said with the Indoraptor nodding. Very well, I'll take the freed slaves back to Yuzu and report to HachiShaku-Sama, then once that's done I'll come straight back to pick you all up, try not to get hurt or blow your cover Naruto. I'm leaving you now to finish my mission in saving Wave, said Itachi as Naruto and Chloe both nodded. I promise nothing won't happen to us, see you later Itachi-sensei, Naruto said, putting back on his mask as he, Chloe and Ripper got off the ship as the boat departed heading back to Yuzu, leaving the three on the docks. Well, Chloe-chan, it's just us, Shredder said behind his mask as she nodded and held his hand. They walked off to go find another hideaway and laid low with Ripper following them. With Shaku-Sama. In the Yuzu study area, the 8-foot Dark Elf Queen Fusion is going through her books and scrolls researching information on a Dark Elf ritual by converting human females of her choice into pure-blooded Dark Elves and not just half-human like Chloe. She needed the right tools and ingredients to perform the ritual. Frowning as she grabbed another book and kept searching for her answer on how to do the ritual of converting humans into Dark Elves. She hummed reading her book, reading from sentence to sentence as she stopped at one thing that caught her interest. Has she found what she was looking for? She found the ingredients for the ritual. She needs a cauldron, which she already has. Pure blood of a Dark Elf. She would have to use her blood since she's pure-blooded. Bone of a Dark Elf. And last but not least, a black soul gem that contains the soul of a Dark Elf. It seems she is missing two things. She would have to make a trip back to her old world and find what she's looking for. She would have to go to her fortress catacombs and look for the black soul gem of a Dark Elf that her family had for generations. She would also need the bone of a Dark Elf too. So it would seem she has to make plans on returning to her old world, but is going to wait until Naruto, Chloe and Itachi return from their mission to Wave. Getting up from her chair, she descended down into Yuzu basement, looking at the size of the room. It could be the perfect place to convert human females into Dark Elves as she looked at the ground. Balling her left fist, a white bubble formed around it as she punched it on the ground, forming a giant wide deep crater, causing her surroundings and the castle to shake from the minor tremor. Now that she created the wide round crater, she brought her cauldron and threw it in there before pulling out her scepter, using her dark magic to enlarge the cauldron, making it large enough to fit the crater size, as if she was making a pool. Now looking at her pit as she called it, she will call this room the Dark Pit. She could use this pit to convert human females into Dark Elves once she has the proper ingredients from her old world. All she could do is wait for Itachi, Naruto and Chloe to finish their mission, now heading back upstairs going to her throne room. She noticed Shizune came in. Yes. Shaku-Sama said. Itachi has returned. She said, causing the Dark Elf fusion to slightly widen her eyes a bit as she instantly teleported to the Yuzu docks where Itachi was and saw him with loads of slaves. As she looked around for Naruto and Chloe, but didn't see them. Frowning, she stared at the Uchiha who stood by. Where is Naruto and Chloe? She said sternly at her Yakai general. They stayed behind to finish the mission. I brought the slaves though, he said simply with her looking over at him, then towards all the slaves that were lined up. Bring them to the castle and introduce me to each of them. I will have Tsunade check them for injuries, said the fused Dark Elf Yakai with him nodding. While she turned at the sea, worried for the two. In Wave with Naruto and Chloe. Lemon happened. Hazuna's house. I'm so glad you were okay, Tsunami-chan. Said Tazuna looking at his daughter as she told him of how she was nearly raped and her son almost saw it as well, but then told him that she was saved by Uzumaki Shredder, is now a masked hero who rescued her and her son. He felt relieved and didn't know how would he repay this Uzumaki Shredder. Maybe he should hire him instead of the Konoha shinobi who did a piss poor job and protecting his daughter. He was pissed at them for not being there to protect her while he was working on the bridge. More rumors had spreaded about Uzumaki Shredder, who is flanked by a black lizard and a beautiful dark-skinned woman with pointy ears who has decimated a bunch of Gato's thugs. Could he be their savior for Wave? Could he save them from Gato? Kakashi also wanted to know who this mysterious Uzumaki Shredder was and what was his motive here in Wave. He currently is training his students Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno and Sai. Maybe when he returns to Konoha he will inform the Hokage about this Uzumaki Shredder. Meanwhile with Gato. So let me get this straight, you want me and Haku to go after this Uzumaki Shredder? Asks Zabuza with Gato nodding. Yes. He has stolen my slaves. And killed a good bunch of all my men in Wave. I demand his head. Gato demanded looking at the swordsman who frowned. And what about the bridge builder and the Konoha shinobi? Zabuza questioned, seeing the short man frown. You can kill them after you kill Shredder. I want him dead now. Gato yelled. You realize you will have to pay me extra in going after this Uzumaki Shredder, Zabuza stated, causing Gato to scowl slightly. I will triple your pay if you kill him. I don't care how you do it, I just want him dead. Gato shouted, gripping his cane while Haku scowled at the man. Consider it done, I will wait for him to make his appearance, Zabuza said as he hefted up his sword and walked away with Haku following him. Zabuza-sama, are you sure it's wise for you to face this Uzumaki Shredder? I've heard rumors about what he did to Gato's thugs, Haku said in concern. I'm not very sure, Haku, and if he is an actual Uzumaki, then he's more of a challenge than I thought. Uzumakis are known for their sealing techniques, Zabuza said. He did feel on edge of fighting this Uzumaki Shredder. He wondered where he could find him. Maybe all he needed to do is wait for the man, knowing that Uzumaki Shredder will come to him when he encounters the Konoha shinobi team. Currently sitting on her throne with Itachi besides her, Shizune and Tsunade are flanked by her left, looking at the many slaves who are now guests of her kingdom. Greetings, fellow guests of my kingdom, I am your ruler HachiShaku-Sama, new-hailed queen of Yuzu, along my husband who is king, who is not here at the moment. All of you are no longer slaves, you are all guests and subjects of my kingdom now. Please come to my throne and introduce yourself to me, HachiShaku-Sama said, looking at the raven-haired beauty with blue eyes. Step forward. And you are? HachiShaku-Sama said, looking at her. Hello, your majesty, I am Naiko Robin, pleasure being a guest here in your kingdom, Robin had said, looking at HachiShaku-Sama. It's good to see you're welcomed here, Miss Robin, HachiShaku-Sama said, gently looking at the blue-eyed tanned woman, checking out her figure, and could tell she is perfect dark elf material. Thank you. Robin said, smiling as she walked back. Next. HachiShaku-Sama said, seeing two females walk up. Hidden, there's a scary vibe around this woman. Her Yakai chakra is similar to a certain urban legend that was supposed to be sealed away, warned Matabi, who shuddered in fear and couldn't explain why did she feel fearful. Ijito was sweating slightly hearing her. Biju. Larvae, be very respectful around that woman, there's something incredibly off about her, warned Chimay, who was trembling. Boo could only flinch a bit and gulped hearing Chimay as her and Yujito exchanged glances at each other, then at HachiShaku-Sama. Introduce yourselves, the Dark Elf Fusion asked. I am Yujito Nai, former Kunoichi of Kumo and Jinchuriki of the Two Tails, Yujito said, with HachiShaku-Sama raising her brow a bit. HachiShaku-Sama had told her about Jinchurikis and their unimaginable powers, and this woman holds the Two Tails, while Naruto holds the Nine Tails. She smiled a bit, and Yujito was exactly dark elf material as she turned towards the mint-haired girl with orange eyes. I am Fu, former Kunoichi of Taki and Jinchuriki of the Seven Tails, Fu introduced with HachiShaku-Sama, smiling more. This was perfect, she was definitely going to convince the other Jinchurikis to join her. Her husband holds the Nine Tails, these two hold 2 and 7 tails, which was perfect. She couldn't wait to turn them into dark elves. Pleasure meeting the two of you. It's good having you two as guests, HachiShaku-Sama said, smiling, while the two went back as she called the next person. And you are? She asked, seeing the shinobi man before her with 2 swords, with his black hair and a ponytail, wearing a yellow-clad shinobi armor. I am Hanzo Hasashi, known as Scorpion. Last member of the Shirai Ryu clan. I pledge my services to you, your majesty, Scorpion said as he bowed to her. Good, it's pleasure having you here in my ranks, Hanzo, HachiShaku-Sama said, looking at the man as he bowed before having a look at Shizune, who blushed at him. He noticed she was staring at him as HachiShaku-Sama saw the next person come to her. Greetings, your majesty, I am Dr. Crane, known as Scarecrow, Scarecrow introduced. Greetings, Dr. Crane, glad you are joining my services, HachiShaku-Sama said, seeing the masked man walk away with a wolfman now appearing. Your majesty, I am Zenaku, the Duke Wolf, at your service, the wolfman said, bowing to her as she smiled. Great to have you serve me, Duke Wolf, welcome to the ranks, HachiShaku-Sama said as humanoid lizard just appeared, hissing lowly. Your highness, I am Reptile, I will serve you as your spy, the lizard man said as she nodded. Anne. Using MK9 version of Reptile, I like his design. Pleasure meeting you all here, I hope you will enjoy my kingdom. For now, go do what you want in New Yuzu, open up stores, markets and etc. You're free to do what you want, she said, dismissing all of her new subjects as they went to the new city of Yuzu, while Tsunade and Shizune went to go start up the new Yuzu hospital that's been built up. While she turns to Itachi. Return to Naruto and Chloe at once and bring them back after they are finished with the mission, because when they get back we have an important mission at hand to take care of. HachiShaku-Sama said, seeing her Yakai general nod and walk off, flanked by his Batcon as they were heading back on the red galleon that belonged to red-haired Shanks Uzumaki. Sitting on her throne in deep thought, just waiting for Itachi to return Naruto and Chloe so she can start up fire mission to Iascha, but first things first, she must be prepared, there's no telling who took over her fortress she left behind. She plans on leaving for Eostia in a half week and bring in her new ranks. It seems she would have to create an inner circle. After she finds the ingredients she needs for the ritual of converting females of her choice into dark elves. What will she do then? Will she possibly find any pure-blooded dark elves in her world and bring them here? Yes, she could do that, and maybe she captures Celestine and all those princess knights and probably turn them all into dark elves, as she grinned evilly at the idea. Then she'll seek out for other females who could be destined to be fated as dark elves and wives for Naruto and maybe Itachi, since he's the last Uchiha and he's been very loyal to her and Naruto, and once she's finished she could destroy her old world, making it a distant memory to her, while her and Naruto rule this world and repopulate it with dark elves with strong blood of Namikaze, Uzumaki, and Yokai. She could hardly wait for a reunion with Celestine, she couldn't wait for the look on the high elf's face when they see each other again. Everything will go exactly as planned once Eostia is no more. She'll set things in motion in this world by setting Naruto on the path to avenge his fallen clan, then conquer the other villages, turning it into a Yuzu dark elf nation. Humans have no choice in the matter to put their faith in her and Naruto when that happens. No one will oppose the dark elf Yuzu empire. Wave. Now in their hideout both lovers were in bed as Naruto woke up with Chloe now waking up. "Good morning Naruto-kun," Chloe said with a smile as he smiled back at her. "Morning Chloe-chan," he said now getting up out the bed putting on his clothes as she did the same thing. "So what must be done now? Naruto-kun?" she asked looking at her witchblade before grabbing her quiver full of ebony arrows and Dedrick bow. "Well, we save Wave and make it our territory and place it under our protection and wait for Itachi-sensei to return to pick us back up," Naruto said, checking for his fox predator gear. He swore when he returns home, he's signing the Xenomorph summoning contract. "Should we get started then?" she said sharpening her Dedrick dagger. "Yes, we have to hunt down more of Gato's thugs and make sure they're purged," he said turning towards her. "I'll take a bath first, then we can go out hunting," she said grabbing a towel and go to the bathroom while he went outside to go check on Ripper. "Ripper?" he yelled out as he saw the Indoraptor appear out the bushes who was eating his breakfast feasting on a deer. "There you are boy," he said coming towards the black raptor of death petting him and stroking his yellow streak. "Go on and eat cause later you and Chloe will probably end up hunting the rest of Gato's thugs and kill the man himself," he said seeing the raptor flash that vicious smile that meant he was going to enjoy that. Later that evening. Taking a break after going on a hunt, Naruto, Chloe and Ripper took a break as Naruto and Chloe were out in the village of Wave, just them while Ripper is at the hideout. Naruto decided to take Chloe out on a date. Both of them were sipping tea as a waitress brought in their food. "Excuse me miss?" a woman asked from a table looking at Chloe. "Yes," she replied turning her attention from Naruto. "Are you the woman that is involved with Uzumaki Shredder?" she asked as many other customers stopped at what they were doing and all eyes turned to Chloe as Naruto himself couldn't help but chuckle. Chloe herself raised an eyebrow. "Yes, I am," Chloe said as everyone started coming towards her and Naruto. "Can you tell us when will he save our village?" asked a random man. "Are you his lover?" said a woman. "Is Shredder-san going to kill Gato and save Tazuna-san from a missing ninja named Zabuza?" Mamichi said a man who works with Tazuna building the bridge, as both Naruto and Chloe perked their heads up at the mention of a missing ninja named Zabuza. Itachi had told them about him, meaning he must be recruited to join their kingdom's ranks. Chloe blushed at how one of the civilians asked if she was Uzumaki Shredder's lover, while Naruto sent her a silent nod and winked his eye as if he was telling her to tell them. "I am in fact Shredder-kun's wife. And yes, my husband will save your village and end the scum known as Gato," Chloe declared with many looking at her in hope. Thank you. You don't have to pay, it's on the house," said the owner of the restaurant who felt happy of having Uzumaki Shredder's wife here in his restaurant with a boy. Naruto himself grinned. Nobody didn't know he was Uzumaki Shredder. The next day on the bridge. As usual Zabuza and Haku were there coming to kill the bridge builder but decided to wait for Shredder. Meanwhile in the bushes. Naruto was already in his hybrid predator Shredder armor as he put on his Kabuto-fused fox predator mask, turning it on as Ripper was standing beside him. Chloe already had her bow and arrows, she didn't feel like using her witchblade. "Are you ready for this Chloe-chan?" Uzumaki Shredder said through his mask. "Ready when you are Naruto-kun," she replied. "It seems Zabuza isn't alone, he has an accomplice with him," he said with her frowning. "You take the girl in the mask, I'll deal with Zabuza, but first we must persuade them to join us before fighting," Shredder said with Chloe nodding as he turned on his cloaking device as Chloe got on Ripper. Back on the bridge. "So you've finally come at last Zabuza?" asked Kakashi grabbing a kunai. "Yeah, I've come to kill you, your team and the builder, but I'm also here for him," Zabuza said narrowing his eyes. "You're not referring to Uzumaki Shredder are you?" Kakashi asked with a frown. And much to the surprise of everyone on the bridge, Uzumaki Shredder uncloaked himself as he was in between Zabuza and Kakashi, who looked shocked that they didn't even sense him or see him, let alone even hear him. "Good evening," Uzumaki Shredder said with his attention on Zabuza. As Chloe and Ripper landed on the bridge beside Shredder. "So you're the infamous Uzumaki Shredder this whole village has been talking about?" Zabuza asked with Shredder nodding. "Indeed I am, there is no reason to fight Zabuza Mamachi. Forget going after the bridge builder," Shredder said with Zabuza frowning. "And why would I do that?" the swordsman asked looking at the masked warrior. "I can offer you and your accomplice a deal. A deal better than what Gato has stated." Shredder with Haku flinched a bit as Zabuza glared at the warrior. "Oh yeah? And what deal is that?" he asked. "Join my kingdom, you will be granted protection from hunter nins from Kiri, spare the bridge builder's life, and help me kill Gato," Shredder said with everyone gasping. Zabuza looked shocked and wasn't sure what he should do. Should he consider it or not? Kakashi and his team could only watch along with Tazuna. "Are you serious?" he asked seeing Shredder nod. The swordsman thought it over for a bit as he looked towards Haku, who seemed to consider this as she kept her attention on the Uzumaki Shredder. "Very well, Haku, we no longer are after the bridge builder, we siding with the Shredder," he said, shocking Tazuna and Kakashi that Uzumaki Shredder was able to convince Zabuza. "Damn you, Zabuza," shouted Gato, who has a whole army of thugs. "Whatever, I never planned on paying you anyway. Kill him. Kill Shredder and anyone else but Zabuza's little bitch and the beautiful dark-skinned woman, she could be quite useful to me in bed and to all my men," Gato said, licking his lips at Chloe, who flinched a bit. It was at this moment Gato said the wrong thing. For after saying that, the whole area is floored and bathed in so much anger, bloodlust, and killer intent that would make Orochimaru look like a scared little kid. Uzumaki Shredder is the source of all of this. His mask's eyes glow red with anger and are ablaze with power. Ripper feels his alpha's bloodlust and is getting excited. Naruto knows about Chloe's past, and to hear someone say that they were going to make his wife go through that again after she is finally free is unforgivable. "So," Shredder says, in his deep mask voice. "For that comment towards my wife, you will die, you swine. You and the rest of your fellow pigs will not leave here alive. For that, I promise." Chloe looks to her husband in awe, admiration, and love for defending her. Then, behind them, Shredder summons one Shodokan from each tribe. Naruto sees this as a good opportunity to test the Shodokan. He tells the Shodokan to attack, and they are the first to strike. Then Shredder says, "Ripper, sick him." And Ripper roars and jumps into the carnage. Uzumaki Shredder and Chloe then start walking towards the fighting. Chloe kills any mercenary that breaks from the fighting to attack them. Shredder is not bothered by the carnage, instead, he is focused on just Gato, not taking his eyes off him. Chloe, Ripper, and the Shodokan are making short work of Gato's men, but that's not hard, they are drunk mercs and dishonored samurai, not true warriors. Two samurai stand in front of Gato, but Shredder barely bothers with them. With one slash of his wrist blades, they both go down, dead. Gato's men are slaughtered and he is surrounded. Gato begins to make Shredder offers if he spares him. Chloe is disgusted by this man. Gato's offers full of Shredder's ears, he says. "SH. SH. SH. I told you that I promised you'd die. And I will always keep my promises." So, he cuts off Gato's good arm since the other was broken by Haku, then Chloe impales Gato's crotch with her dagger, and then Naruto leaves Gato's fate to Ripper, who tears him apart after roaring in his face. Those who witnessed the whole massacre felt sick and green and even threw up. Zabuza felt a chill run down his spine, maybe it was a good idea to side with the Shredder. Kakashi and his team could only feel horrified at what they witnessed. "Konoha Shinobi, get out of here, you're not welcomed here," Shredder warned, glaring at them as they flinched. "Let's get out of here, guys, this guy is out of our league," Kakashi said, with him and his genins now forced to leave Wave since they felt very terrified of fighting Uzumaki Shredder. "Uzumaki Shredder. Thank you. Thank you," said Tazuna as he heard the villagers of Wave appeared and saw what happened as they all cheered for their savior. "Uzumaki Shredder. Uzumaki Shredder. Uzumaki Shredder," cheered the villagers as he turned towards them with Chloe at his side and Ripper as Zabuza and a Haku joined them. "People of Wave. You are now free. I declare this village under my protection," Shredder said, raising his fist in the air with everyone cheering out freedom and more cheering for Uzumaki Shredder. "Since you are our hero, then I hereby dub this bridge the Great Uzumaki Shredder," Tazuna said with the villagers roaring in approval. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.